kitchen at White Pines Wellness Center. We're here this morning to talk to you guys about making baby food. I'm just going to ask that if you could step back just a little bit. That way I can remove my mask and it makes it a little bit easier to hear me. Thank you. Just going to set that off to the side. So good morning, it's Arlie Harrison from Health Promotions. I'm the Healthy Lifestyles Coordinator, and this morning we'll be talking to you guys about making our own baby food at home. These are some of the supplies that we will need for all different food groups that we'll be making today. And we also have with us today Heidi. She is our prenatal dietitian. Heidi is standing off to the side. And she'll be discussing and helping to give you guys all kinds of great information on making your own food at home. Okay, so first we're going to start off with our proteins. So today we have some ground beef, and then we also have some chickpeas as well, so canned chickpeas. But you can use a wide variety of different meats. You can also use venison, turkey, fish, chickpeas, lentils as well, any sort of bean or legume. So we have lots of options. So first we're going to start with our ground beef. We've chosen medium ground beef because it has some extra fat in it. So that's really good for babies. We like to have lots of fat so that it helps them to grow. So we're going to take our meat and we're going to bring it over and we're going to put it in warm water to boil.
So Arlie's just breaking up the meat here and we're just boiling it in the water. So starting with proteins with your baby is awesome because it has a lot of iron in it. So if you think of red meat like ground beef or venison or even those lentils that Arlie mentioned, beans, chickpeas, they have a lot of iron that's really, really, really important for your baby because they only have so much stores until 6 months and then they get depleted, so you need to replenish that. So Arlie just broke up the meat in there and she'll let it boil until it cooks.
All right, so now we've let our meat boil for a little bit. Sometimes boiling is a little bit easier because it helps to keep the meat a little more moist and not dry for baby. So once it's cooked, it's going to be gray all the way through. All that pinkish red of the meat is going to be gone. And if you look closely at the meat and the water, there is also all the fat from the meat has floated to the top. We're going to save that fat water and we're going to add it back into our meat when we puree it. Okay, so now that our meat is all cooked, we're gonna add it, we're gonna use a magic bullet this time. Magic bullet or baby bullet or any sort of small blender will work the same. So we could use a slotted spoon. We're gonna take our ground beef out. We are gonna use a little bit of the liquid like I mentioned, and we're gonna add the fat back in. Babies need lots of fat for development. In our diets, we don't need so much. We're done growing, but for babies, they need lots of energy and lots of fat to help them grow. So we're gonna add our ground beef in, and then we're gonna use a little scoop, and we're gonna scoop some of that fat liquid back off, and we're gonna add it in so our meat puree is nice and smooth. If we have a little bit too much liquid like this one does, just a tiny bit too much, pretty good though, we can add a little more meat in. So this one's very, very smooth. If your babies are bigger, you can just directly take the ground beef and we can mash that with a fork as well. So I'll put a little bit into the bowl here so you can see. So it purees up very quickly. We know it looks kind of crazy, but the babies love it and it's really nutritious for them. So that's your ground beef. And like I said, we can use the same ground beef, ground venison, or ground turkey. The next one we're going to be working on is we're going to be working with our chickpeas. So first we're going to need a can opener to open our can up. So with chickpeas, they're always in a little bit of juice. We're going to dump them into the sink in a strainer and we're going to rinse them. We usually rinse our chickpeas. If you can see there's bubbles, we're gonna rinse them till all the bubbles are gone. Just give them a good rinse. Good. We're just gonna let those drain for a minute and then we're going to use one of our machines to process them. Okay, so now our chickpeas are nice and drained. We're gonna bring them over. We're going to use a food processor, but you can also use a blender, a hand blender, a magic bullet, a baby bullet. They will all be able to mash up these chickpeas. So we're gonna take the lid off. We're gonna add them to the processor with a little bit of dribble. In they go. We're also gonna use a little bit of water just in case. And put the lid on. And just to mention to our chickpeas today, we were able to get salt-free chickpeas. Again, we're always watching how much sodium our babies are getting. So if you can, when possible, look for some sodium-free chickpeas. So now we're gonna turn our machine on, make sure everything is all lined up, and we're gonna start it. So essentially the machine is just gonna blend those chickpeas up for us. If you see that when they're blending, that they're not blending up and getting a nice smooth texture, just add a little bit more water to them. Okay, so we're gonna shut it off. We're gonna see how our texture's going here. Oops. So if you want to look, I can tip this a little bit. So they're getting more runny, a little bit runny consistency. With babies, they like all different types of textures. When they're first starting out, things need to be really smooth. And as they become experts at eating, things can have a little more texture to them. So this one we're going to puree a little bit more. So now we can take this, we're going to pour it out, and we have a nice smooth consistency, very liquidy. So you can see now our chickpeas are nice and smooth. You can make them as runny or thick as you need. This one's a little bit more runny, so a little bit more liquid. You can also add breast milk or formula to them when babies are first starting out, just to give them a more familiar taste to them as well. So, chickpeas.